Hi, this is Layla Brewer. This is a walkthrough of the FY21 Title IV Part A application that's part of the Consolidated Application in GMAP. To begin, in order to start working on the Consolidated application, the Consolidated Director will need to click the Change Status To button to draft started. This will allow changes to be made to the application. Once the entire Consolidated application is finished, the Consolidated Director will click Draft Completed, which will then begin the process of sending the entire consolidated application up the district's chain for approval. The consolidated application is not submitted to KDE until it's been approved by the superintendent. The Title IV Part A section of the application includes 5 pages that need to be completed. That is the program administration, needs assessment, equitable services for private schools, program description, and budget pages. The budget overview gives you a quick look at the budget spending in each category, and the related documents page is for the district to upload any documents that may be requested as part of the application. The program administration page is asking for you to identify the stakeholders that were consulted in the design and implementation of the application. All stakeholders listed are required as part of ESEA Section 4106C1, and the district must have continued consultation with the stakeholders to improve the local activities as noted in Section 4106C2. New this year is the box to describe the consultation process and how it will be documented. The district needs to explain how it will be consulting with the different required stakeholders. You need to give as much detail as possible describing the consultation process with each group. While some groups may be easy to combine, the district may have different methods of consulting with students as it would with local government representatives. The district must also explain how it will be documenting the consultation process. All documentation must be maintained at the district level. The district must also select how funds will be distributed and can do this based upon the greatest need as determined by the LEA, with the greatest percentage of or number of students from low-income families, to schools identified as CSI or TSI. Kentucky doesn't have any schools that are identified as persistently dangerous, so that option is disabled for FY21. The last box is the district agreeing federal funds will be used to supplement state or local funds. The LE cannot use federal funds to carry out activities that would otherwise be paid for with state or local funds. To determine whether a particular use of funds would violate the non-supplanting requirement, LEA should consider matters such as whether the cost involved is currently paid for using state or local funds, or whether the cost involved is for an activity that is required by state or local law. In no event may LEAs decrease the amount of state or local funds used to pay the cost of an activity simply because of the availability of Title IV Part A program funds. The next page is the needs assessment page. Districts that receive an allocation of $30,000 or greater are still required to conduct a comprehensive needs assessment at least once every 3 years. The district needs to include the date the assessment was conducted, the needs assessment used, and a description of the results of the needs assessment. The description must contain unique district data and seem reasonable to support a need that can be addressed under one of the 3 sections of Title IV Part A. Please note the effective use technology section is to support professional learning around maximizing and enhancing the use of educational technology. So the data provided should be showing where the district has a need around professional development and training and utilizing technology devices and programs to deliver effective instruction. The equitable service of private schools is to enter in information for districts that have private schools within their district boundary. If your district does not have any non-public private schools within the district boundary, then checking the box next to the statement at the top will disable the page. If the district has non-public private schools, then the district will need to mark the assurances box and, if non-public schools are participating, select the box indicating their participation. The base for equitable services is the entire district allocation. The amount for administrative costs will be deducted from the base. The district can take up to 2% to cover administrative costs for overseeing the grant. To determine the per pupil amount, the total district enrollment and the total private school enrollment must be entered in. Once the per pupil amount is calculated, the district needs to enter in the name of the private non-public school, the total student enrollment for that school, the official that the district consults with, the date, and describe the services that will be provided to the school. Please remember that the district maintains fiscal control over the services provided, meaning the district will not be reimbursing the private school, but will instead make all purchases and payments. Any materials purchased are district property and must be labeled and inventoried at the district level. The program description page is where you'll enter in the information on how you use Title IV Part A funds to address the needs identified in the Comprehensive Needs Assessment. The top box will automatically populate with equitable services allocation from the previous page. If the district is taking out administrative costs, then click the box next to administrative costs to activate the box. This is optional. Then the amount should be entered in that doesn't exceed 2% of the district's allocation and needs to match the amount from the equitable services page if it was entered in. The district will then describe the purpose of any cost and how funds will be used for program administration. If the district receives less than $30,000, the district can select any of the three areas for how funds will be used. If a district receives $30,000 or more in funds, they must allocate at least 20% in well-rounded education, 20% in safe and healthy students, and a portion in effective use of technology. The portion must be a reasonable amount to support and carry out a program or activity under this section. There's a special rule where no more than 15% of funds in the effective use of technology section can be used on or spent on devices, hardware, or software. This means that if the district allocates $10,000 of their funds to the effective use technology section, only $1,500 can go towards hardware or software, and the remaining 85% must go towards professional learning and maximizing and enhancing the use of educational technology. If funds are used for devices, hardware, software, or one-time IT items, then the district must select yes and then enter in the amount that will be used to purchase those items. Again, this cannot exceed 15% of funds in this section. The amount entered in the box for tech infrastructure must match the amount in the budget exactly. Under partnerships, districts can partner with outside agencies to support the Title IV Part A funded program. If a district is partnering with an outside group, the district will need to list the outside agency they will be partnering with and how that partnership will enhance student achievement. For example, if the district is partnering with a local physical therapist office as part of a career pathways program that is funded with Title IV Part A funds, then the description could be, the district is partnering with Carter Physical Therapy to provide students with real-world experiences in working in a physical therapy center. Under each section that asks for districts to describe the program activity, the district must also describe how the effectiveness of the activities will be assessed. District must periodically evaluate the effectiveness of the program or activity in accordance with ESEA Section 4106E1E. Districts need to maintain documentation of periodic program and activity evaluation used to measure the effectiveness of the objectives and intended outcomes. On the budget page, the district will need to include the budget details for the application. There are 5 categories in the budget. 3 are for the 3 sections of the grant, and the other 2 are for private schools and administrative cost budgets. The information listed in the budget should clearly align to the programs and activities listed on the program description page in the corresponding section of the grant. In order to make changes to the budget, you'll click Modify next to the category where you want to make changes to the budget details, and when the budget code is opened, a description of how funds will be used to support the program will be required. For example, if the district is using funds under Safe and Healthy Students for counseling services and materials, the district could use funds under 552GS. If code 0610 is used, which is general supplies, the types of supplies that will be purchased will need to be listed. A narrative description for code 0610 under Safe and Healthy Students could be supplies for counselor for calm down kits. To delete a code, you will click the trash can under Delete and click the pencil under Edit in order to edit any details. To add more budget codes, you will click Add Budget Detail. the amount in each category of the budget should equal the amount listed on the program description page. For example, if the district put $20,000 in the Safe and Healthy Student section, then the budget should reflect $20,000 budgeted in the Safe and Healthy Student section. On the program description page, we talked about the 15% rule in the effective use of technology section. In this section, 85% of funds must be used to support professional learning and maximizing and enhancing the use of educational technology. On our program description page, we mark the Yes Radial button and set aside $1,500 for the purchase of educational technology. On the budget, no more than $1,500 can be placed in a technology budget code. As you can see, $1,500 is being used for Chromebooks for remote learning, while the other 85% of funds are being used to cover the cost of a consultant to provide training for teachers on blended learning strategies. A new feature this year in the application is the ability to copy the budget from the previous year. You will see a Copy Budget Detail button on the budget page that will allow you to copy details from the previous year's budget and this year's budget, and then make changes needed to reflect any updates to the budget items and details in the district plans on continuing a previously funded program. While this feature will be very useful, the district still needs to keep in mind that the budget program or activities must align with what is in the needs assessment and program activities page. Also, because the budget was approved the previous year does not guarantee it will be approved in the current year. Finally, the MUNIS budget must be set up to match the approved GMAP budget to include a separate MUNIS report for each category set up in GMAP. For example, 552GS, 552GT, and 552GW. Also, the approved budget codes and amounts in GMAP must be set up under the appropriate category. This means that on the 552GS MUNIS report, the district will need to set up the object codes that are open and approved in the GMAP budget. The finance officer will need to use the approved GMAP budget to set up the MUNIS budget for the district. Thank you for watching.